So again, I really want you to be able to find the path for you that keeps you connected to your vision, keeps you connected to what inspires you, gives you a path that constantly you're learning, but in a direction that you want to learn. And all the examples I've given so far are historical or mine, personal ones, but nowadays they actually have identified 4 steps that they call deliberate learning. And you've probably heard the concept of 10,000 hours. Malcolm Gladwell with Outliers, I think it was, talked about this idea of the 10,000 hour rule that, almost nobody is recognizing anybody with talent. It's more about the time put in. But it's not just the time put in, it's also the type of time that's put in. And specifically this idea of being deliberate with your practice and going through these 4 steps to be able to achieve that. I mentioned this idea of 10,000 hours. I don't want to discourage you. You don't need 10,000 hours to be able to improve. You just might need 10,000 hours to become a virtuoso. But the idea though is the 4 steps are just kind of more systematic ways to be able to learn and to learn at the most efficient manner. And so the first step is to identify the skills and break those things into smaller skills, or their subskills. So I kind of gave examples of that where, Benjamin Franklin, to learn how to write, broke it down in 3 ways. Me learning how to paint broke it down into several different ways. So same thing, you want to be able to break down the skills that you need to learn and then identify your weaknesses and which ones you want to focus on for a given thing you want to learn. The second step of deliberate practice is to take that sub-goal that you've identified that you want to improve and then set specific goals around it. In fact, set goals called SMART goals. SMART is essentially an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, attainable or achievable, relevant or realistic, and time-bound. So SMART goals. You might have heard of these before, but I'll go through these just briefly to make sure that you understand what the differences are. So the S in SMART is specific, which basically means don't be vague. Don't be so nuanced you don't know really what you're even talking about. You don't want to be generalized. You want to kind of isolate the goal that you want to achieve so that it's something that's really easy to understand and specific. Not much more to say about that. Measurable, though, is really critical, and that's a tricky one because sometimes it's really hard to understand how to measure something. They say, though, if you can't measure it, then you can't manage it. I'm not sure if I quite buy that, but ideally you can at least have some kind of a goal that you can achieve. You can tell that you've achieved it, and that's really what measurement's all about. A for achievable or attainable basically means that you're capable of actually achieving it. It's within your space of believability. You're not 4'2" trying to be a center of the Lakers. To continue with the SMART goals, we've got through S, M, and A. R is realistic or relevant. And the difference between attainable or achievable and realistic is more about the context of your life. Is this something that you're actually going to do? And is this something that you actually want to do? Is this actually something that's going to be relevant and relatable to you? So it's not necessarily that it's realistic in the sense that it's achievable, but it's realistic in the sense that you have the time to do it and that you're going to dedicate the time to do it. It's more about that. And then finally, time-bound. If there's no deadline, I saw this really great TED Talk where the idea is that we have this monkey mind, and the only thing that stops a monkey mind is a deadline. So you need a deadline to be able to help yourself focus and get something done. So giving yourself some kind of a time-bound goal really helps you achieve that improvement that you're looking for. So those were the SMART goals, and that was for step 2, which was to identify a goal to help you improve your weakness. Step 3 is really the level at which you practice, and that's really all about practicing at the threshold of your capability or the edge of your capability. You want to set goals that push you a little farther than where you're at, something that's going to make you a little uncomfortable and something you don't know how to do yet. That's going to force your brain to learn and realize and make connections to be able to pull it off. It's very much like a muscle where when you work out, you want to stretch and strain your muscle to be able to kind of signal that it needs to do something to get better for the next time. So even though while you're practicing during the time, it might be a little bit uncomfortable, it might be something you're not able to do, keep coming back and being at that threshold. And over time, your brain will figure out what is necessary to be able to make it happen.